Reactive Training Systems.
Everybody, welcome back to the RTS podcast. I'm Mike Tushir. I've got Paul Steinman, Mark Robb, and Adam here with me today. We're going to be talking about IPF Classic Worlds. At least Mark and Paulie and I all went to Finland. Gosh, has it been 2 weeks already? Or is it more like a week or so?
Actually, 2 weeks for you, 3 weeks for Mark and I.
Gosh, it took us a long time to do this, but
well, I mean, it takes a long time to recover from that much lifting.
There was a lot of lifting. I mean, 2 solid weeks of competing, 2 solid weeks of competition, and they were running single platform by the time I got there, but they even had dual platforms going for you guys for a while, right?
Yeah, it was. I think a highlight of that was when they were trying to warm up 47-kilo women and 105-kilo men at the same time. And so there was a height and weight disparity, and we had to figure out where to put everybody. Do you remember that, Mark?
Oh yeah, I remember.
It's like, why is his rack height at 6?
Yeah, somebody's in the wrong weight class, right? No, but I mean, I heard that there was a bit of confusion once you start getting into dual platforms, but I mean, a 2-week meet that had 800 plus lifters or something like that. I mean, really, at least my experience, by the time I got there, it ran really well, all things considered. The venue was awesome, and it just seemed like a really good overall experience to me. Was it? I guess maybe we got the kinks worked out for you guys and your sessions while you were there. But yeah, things went well for us.
I don't
So
know.
on my end, viewing from home, it seemed like the quality of the media production had taken a quantum leap as well. It was all the footage is still available. So I mean, obviously, if people have time to check it out, go to YouTube and download it. That was really impressive to see.
Yeah, I think that's important to note. Like the IPF in general seems to be getting much better about media production and just keeping everybody moving forward. You know, I mean, that was one thing that I noticed. I didn't watch a lot of the live stream because I didn't have to, but the bit of the live stream that I watched was a lot higher quality than it has been in the past, and higher quality than any other live streams I've seen. So they're really pushing that stuff to the next level, which I appreciate, and I'm sure a lot of other fans appreciate as well.
I think that overall there's just more demand for this. I mean, I think the IPF, the live stream, Facebook, everywhere in social media, I think this was a big win for the IPF overall.
Yeah. I agree, and it seems like, I mean, Mike, you were talking about how well it was running by the last day, but I mean, I was early on in the meet, and I thought it was run very well at that point.
Yeah.
What do you think, Paulie?
I think so too. I mean, there was plenty of platform space upstairs. It's just all brand new Alico equipment. Nice. The platforms were actually bigger since they were all metric platforms, so we had a little more room on the platforms. We had, being United States seemed to always have a massive presence there in the platforms, and we generally took over one whole platform, and we had plenty of space to do so. Downstairs in the staging area, plenty of room for everybody to spread out and get in their own headspace before they went on. And I think overall it ran very, very smoothly.
Yeah, and kind of speaking of the U.S. team having a big presence, the U.S. fielded 14 teams through the course of the championship. And I mean, 14 teams, that ranges from, that's men and women, from sub-junior all the way up through Masters 4. So there was a ton of different teams, and I know we brought up a bunch of lifters. And I know the U.S. coaching staff, Paulie, you included, worked a lot. There were a ton of hours put in just to make sure that, lifters got weighed in, got checked in, and equipment checked and warmed up on time, and everything was timed properly, and they were handled well through the competition. I mean, there's a lot that goes into all that. And then to run 14 teams worth of lifters through a meet that takes course over 2 weeks, I mean, that is a lot of work to put in. So.
And that's a big testament, honestly, to Angela and Arian. And I was there for just a few days, and Angela and Arian were there for the whole thing, in addition to putting it all together and basically just wrangling all. I think we had over 80 lifters just from United States, and just wrangling all of us, and just keeping it running smoothly. And that just took a lot of stamina and endurance, because some of those there were 3 sessions per day on many of the days, and so the days were going 12 to 14 hours at times.
Yeah, and not 12 to 14 hours of office work. They're definitely in there slinging weights and getting everybody spotted and loaded for all the warm-ups. And then you've got all the head work of making sure that people place well, which and I'll kind of speak to that a little bit, that we kind of write powerlifting off sometimes as being a simple sport, and I guess it is for the most part, but you squat and you bench, you build your total. But man, especially at a meet of this caliber, it seems like once we get to the deadlift, all bets are off, and a lot of weight classes were really competitive. And to watch people, play these numbers games when they go into the deadlift to kind of iron out their placing, well, I'm going to go up 7. This person has to go up 10, to tie me on body weight, but I don't think they've got 10, or, whatever the specific circumstances were. There's some math involved with that, and some time constraints, and it's a high pressure situation. So I can definitely appreciate the work that those coaches did. And we'll just kind of reiterate that throughout. I'm sure that they really did a fantastic job with that.
And I would have to add that there's an element of poker that goes into the third deadlift attempts as well, because there's oftentimes we'll put in, or not often, but there are times where we'll put in a higher attempt, and we have the opportunity to change those attempts and try and push somebody up to make a different attempt, and just kind of get into people's heads, get into the lifters and the coaches' heads, and just try to, at the same time, trying to push for the best possible outcome for our own lifters.
Right.
So without a doubt, without a doubt, I think when you're talking about playing those numbers games, you look at the super heavyweight men seem to be the highlight of the meet for me, just watching it. And that was kind of an incredible competition in an immensely deep field. Yeah,
definitely, without a doubt. I know that I had a great time. I got to sit next to Ellis McLean and Nick Taluki and John Hustis and a few other lifters that I'm going to leave out. But so we're all sitting there watching the heavyweight competition, and there were just a ton of guys that opened over an 800-pound squat. And then, of course, everybody knows how Ray Williams did and set a world record. I forget the exact number, 930 something.
938, I think.
I think so. But I mean, it's so fun to watch him squat, because it seems like he gets better as the weight gets heavier. You're watching the first couple warm-ups, and you're like, man, okay, looking a little rough, but then as the weight gets heavier, he gets better. His skill improves, like things come together, and I've just never seen anything like it. It's just a really incredible thing to watch. But it wasn't just Ray's squatting, which was incredible. You've got Jezza Wepa, you've got Blaine Sumner, Kelly Branton, who was just a ball to watch and a really cool guy to meet, a really nice guy. All these guys, and you're looking at these numbers, and you're like, man, this is really going to be a close one, And we're sitting up there watching and kind of playing along, like, oh man, Blaine put in this for his next deadlift, well, that means so and so will have to take this for to keep their placement and stuff like that. So it was a really fun thing to watch. And one thing that I said to those guys was like, man, if you go to a powerlifting meet and you think like, man, this is really boring to watch, then you're at the wrong competition. If you see a meet that's got a depth of competition from competent lifters, well-coached lifters, it can actually be fun to watch. I know that we had a really good time. I want to read really quickly here a quote from Ray. Ray posted this up on his Facebook page, and I thought it was just kind of a really cool attitude. He says, "People say it was a battle to fight, but to me, it was three guys who brought out the best in each other. Mad respect for Blaine and Jezza. These two gentlemen could have easily been at the top. I'm proud to call these two men friends. I have so much respect for both of them. We're all bound by the sport of powerlifting." I thought that was a really cool attitude to characterize it as we're pushing each other, and he didn't really characterize it as a confrontational kind of battle, Paulie, speaking as a coach, do you think of it the same way? Like when you're trying to coach lifters, do you kind of nudge them in that direction, or do you think of it more as confrontational?
I don't think of it as confrontational. I mean, people have so many battles to fight within themselves. They're exhausted by the time if they have to go confront somebody else. So it's everybody is pushing each other. I certainly make them aware of their competition. I mean, I don't want them lifting in a complete vacuum. But at the same time, and it's something that we've said over and over again, something that Matt Gary says over and over again, it's about the process. It's about just going in and putting in your work. And it's not, I don't think the battle or the confrontation is anything I don't use it as a tool to motivate my lifters at all. Because there's enough on game day that will motivate them, and that's one of the things that we can use. But at the same time, I feel like it can also be a distractor, because if they start focusing on that and they forget about their process, bad things can happen.
Yeah. Well, before we
100%.
Before we kind of range too far off topic, I just want to cover kind of how the U.S. teams did, and I know our audience is bigger than just U.S. teams, but since for those of us here right now, that's what we were part of. Like I said, we've had 14 teams ranging from sub-junior to Masters 4, men and women. 7 of those teams won first place in their competition, so 50% of those teams were first place winners. We had 5 teams that won second place, and then 2 teams placed third. And no team that we had, no U.S. team placed worse than third. And then also something that I said on my Facebook page right after, both the men and women open teams won their competitions. That's the first men's team that I've ever been on that's won a world championship. And I guess it's the second time that it's ever happened that both men and women won the team competition, which frankly surprised me. I know the U.S. team brought in a really heavy team. I don't think we had any men under 93, I think. I might be getting that wrong too, but in general, we had a heavy team. I know we had 2 people in the 120s, 2 120 pluses, 2 93s, and as I was looking at that, I thought, man, it'll be hard for us to score points because usually you need kind of a diverse, broad spectrum of weight classes to make sure that you're, scoring lots of points. I know the Russian teams, the Ukrainian teams, a lot of times that's what they'll bring. So yeah, I was a little bit surprised, happily surprised, but surprised nonetheless.
Yeah, just imagine if powerlifting were actually popular and we had more people participating in it. It's I know to a certain degree sometimes you don't always have you don't always have competition. I think that things are changing a lot, and I think honestly as powerlifting does trend more popular, as lifters and coaches are more aware, and they're starting to kind of weed out the silliness from reality. I think it's just going to keep getting better. I really
Yeah,
do.
absolutely. I think that you see that across a bunch of different levels. Um, that the sport as a whole is getting more competitive. We see that at our nationals, that more and more weight classes are becoming highly contested. You have people, placing, third, fourth place, not even on the medal stand at nationals, that would do very well at the world championships. So there's more competition at the national level, and then you're seeing more and more competition at the international level as well. As evidence, we were just talking about, the open heavyweight competition. Even in my weight class, the 120 class, it took a 900 kilo total to make it on the medal stand this year. It's getting more and more competitive every year, and lots of weight classes are like that. There are a few people that are still running away with their competition. Kim Wofford and Bonica Lau come to mind. I'm sure there's others as well, but those two in particular come to mind for me.
Jen Thompson.
Jen Thompson, but if I remember right, it was closer than it's been in the past for her. Which is certainly no slight against her. She had a world record bench press, which was incredible. Also one of the highlights of the meet. But I think it just speaks to the level of competitiveness of the sport as a whole is just getting higher, which is cool to see. Like as a fan of the sport, it's really cool to see. And as a competitor, I go, man, it's time to get back to work.
Well,
Mark, how does it affect your mentality as a competitor to see things getting more competitive?
Well, I like it. I mean, it's no fun competing if you don't have somebody to, that's going to push you. And kind of going back to what Ray's quote that you read earlier. I mean, I've got a couple of guys that push me on a national level. I mean, Doug Kearns pushes me, and he just recently told me he might quit for a while, and I'm disappointed at that because I like having that competition, and that's at a national level, and then at an international level, same thing. It's no fun if you don't have people to push you and to compete against, and it's much better atmosphere, I think, if it's atmosphere like the super heavyweight competition was.
Yeah. Do you find that affects your mentality when you're training at all?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If the other guys are out there, working hard and trying to get stronger and better and everything else, and they're close to you, that's definitely motivates me.
Yeah, I can tell you, I feel the same way. I even have to kind of watch myself sometimes, and make sure that I'm maintaining like an internal focus in my training, that it's good to use that stuff to be a little bit motivated and, to stay engaged with the whole training process. But I can tell you that I've got to be careful sometimes not to get too carried away. I'm sure it's similar for you, Mark. We've trained together in some ways for a lot of years now, and I know that keeping things reined in is something that is important for lifters, especially as they get to a higher level. Usually, finding that gear, finding that motivation is not a long-term problem for people at that level.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, that it's, number one, you have to be basically comparing comparing hopefully your future performance with past performances. That's number one, trying to improve yourself. And then on a secondary basis is worrying about everybody else, because you got no control over them.
Right. I wanted to talk for a minute about how Team RTS did, and this kind of expands a bit into the broader powerlifting community. Team RTS, people that I work with, that we all take a part in their training to some degree or another. Kind of as a collective, we have people all over the world. So how did we do overall? Well, we had 4 first place winners with world records at this competition. So 4 world champions in this one meet. We had 1 second place winner, and then we had 3 lifters that placed 4th, 6th, and 9th respectively, which was a really good showing. I mean, that's 8 lifters overall. So we brought 8 lifters, and 4 of them, or 5 of them rather, were top 3 finishes, and then the ones that weren't top 3 finishes are improving. And first of all, improvement is the thing that ties all of us as powerlifters together. We're all kind of after that beating the personal best. So if we're improving, then we're all moving in the right direction. And we all turned in performances that I'm personally happy with. I have to. I'll talk a bit about my performance in a minute, but with the numbers, the placements rather, that we turned in, I'm not super familiar with how combined team scoring works, but I was just curious, like, if RTS was a team, how would we have fared with that placement? And by my figuring, that would have been 57 out of 60 points, which is really, really good. And like I said, I can't take that to the bank or anything. I'm not an expert in combined team scoring, but just kind of as I calculated it, it's really good. So mixes together some ages and genders, and then also worth noting, I wouldn't have even been on the scoring team for Team RTS if that's how we would have done things this year, if it was a combined team or something like that. And that's not, I'm not beating myself up about that or anything, but it's more a testament to how good the other members of the team are doing. Mark, you yourself are one of those gold medal winners. You care to share a bit about your meet experience? What was it like? How'd you do and all that?
Sure. Yeah, like we were just talking about a minute ago, kind of comparing yourself to your current performance with past performances. I was actually a little disappointed in my ability to demonstrate strength, which is, of course, what it's all about. I felt like, I came in with a 712.5 kilo total. Last year at Worlds, I was at 720. If I had not missed my 3rd squat, I would have been at 720 again this year. And I shouldn't have missed my 3rd deadlift. Both were technique issues. However, I think I was at strength kind of peaked about 4 or 5 weeks out. I was doing really well, hitting some really PR estimated 1 rep maxes, but then I started getting so beat up that I had to back way off the volume of training and cut back on singles and so forth. So I kind of came into the meet on a backslide. So coming into the meet on a backslide and still doing as well as I did, you know, whatever, 7.5 kilos below what I did last year. All in all things considered, I guess that's good. You know, and of course that's comparing, like I said, myself to my own past performances. Luckily, it was good enough to win. So,
And not just by a little bit, Mark. I mean, you won by a lot.
Yeah.
It's something to keep in mind.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Do you have some world records in there? I thought.
yeah,
you did.
I pulled a what was it, 295 kilo deadlift, which was a world record, because I'd pulled 292 and a half in South Africa. So that upped that a little bit. So that was kind of my number one goal was to win.
Yeah.
You know, however I could do that. Number two goal was to at least break the deadlift world record. And number three goal was to try to set some PRs and you know, hopefully beat that 720 kilo total. Well, I got the first two done, so yeah, I'm happy. and you know, like we always say, even to beginners that do their first meet, you know, and a lot of times they're disappointed with their performance and everything else, but really, if you come away from the meet having learned something and have things to work on and improve on, then it was a successful experience. And, you know, so all things considered, again, you know, first place, a world record, and I learned a bunch of stuff about training and coming into this meet that I can improve on next time. So all in all, it was very successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's for anybody listening, I think that would be the big takeaway from this. You know, you have somebody who won first place at the World Championship by a lot, set some world records. And if you kind of take note of Mark's mentality, you know, it's happy but not satisfied, I think is the phrase that people like to use. I think that would describe you pretty well. I mean, I don't think that you can come away from a performance like that, you know, from an outcome like that and not be, you know, not smile to yourself a little bit like, hey, yeah, you know, not only won the world championship, but set some world records in the process, you know, but then to move past that, you know, to kind of smile to yourself a little bit, but then, you know, it's back to work after that, you know. And Mark, I know that's kind of where you're at now. It's like, okay, well, time to get back to it.
And if I'm not mistaken, Mike, isn't that your attitude as well? So you didn't have your best meet, but it kind of came out to what you expected, and now your attitude is just time to go to work, time
Right.
to get back and just do it again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and yeah, I didn't have my best meet. My numbers were down quite a bit. Performance-wise, it's about what I expected going into the meet. You know, like I knew about where my lifts were at, so I performed fine at the competition. I missed my third squat on depth, which is no bueno. So I'll have to work on that a bit. But sometimes those things happen when you're pushing it. I missed my third bench press. Again, sometimes those things happen. The lifts as a whole were down, but yeah, like you said, that's to be expected. I've got a bunch of excuses as to why they were down. You know, I've recently moved back to the U.S. from Italy, which is no small task. I was actually surprised at how big of a task that is. But then also probably the biggest thing, I've had some minor injury, nothing cool or anything, but just kind of some minor irritating injury stuff that's prevented me from training how I want to. That's all under control now, so I'm back to lifting and getting stronger again. But as far as mentality stuff, yeah, that's kind of how I approach this. I went into this meet thinking my number one goal is just to lift well. I want to go lift weights, perform to my potential, hopefully make the medal stand, but just if I lift weights and perform to my potential, then I'll be okay with that. I did a pretty good job of that. I went 7 for 9, so it wasn't a stellar outing, but it was all right. But like I was telling people, one way or another, if I had done great at that meet, if I had done terrible at that meet, the next week I'm back to rebuilding mode. Back to what can I do to improve these numbers, improve this outcome for my next competition. So, yeah, again, that's kind of the thing that ties us all together, is this kind of pursuit of improvement, pursuit of the next PR.
Yeah, I think it also just speaks to the kind of the champion mindset, and you don't necessarily have to be a champion to have a champion mindset. But the fact is, you're going in, you did a meet, you did even on your worst day, or feeling pretty beat up, you're gonna place 4th, or you're going to set some world records. But that's all kind of business as usual. You don't kind of dwell on it too much, and you kind of take a look at it and say, that's cool, and now I want a little more. I'm just going to keep working, keep putting in, and we'll see what happens next year.
And it's like I tell my lifters, all the time, take what's there, build your momentum. This meet was definitely me just taking what's there. It's unfortunate that it's a world championship and you have to use that as a jumping off point for the next competition, but it is what it is, and at the point where I could do something about it, it was too late to do very much about it. But now I have some time before the next competition. Things are already improving. Of course, it shouldn't be too hard to improve in the beginning, at least. But like we keep saying, there's a lot of competition out there. The competition gets harder and harder every year. So, got to put it together and build that momentum so that at the next meet, when we take what's there, it's a much higher end performance. But yeah, you can't dwell on it. You can't beat yourself up about it. And plus, you sound like kind of a jerk anyway if you're like, oh man, I placed 4th at the World Championship, but it's so terrible. Like people just look at you funny when you say that. So.
Yeah, Mark, if you're going to set a world record while you're feeling pretty beat up,
yeah.
All I have to say is get healthy.
Right.
Mark, haven't you
trying,
pulled
Paulie.
700 in training? Haven't you pulled 700 in training? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I pulled 700, and I pulled 690 and 685 a bunch of times, and 675 a whole bunch of times, and everything else. So, but it's that stuff doesn't matter, because the meets are the only thing that really matters, and the meets are a demonstration of strength, and if you can't demonstrate it on the platform in front of 3 judges, then it doesn't really matter. I mean, it does, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, frankly, there were some other things at play out there too. I mean, we were up in Scandinavia. It was a 7-hour time difference. Sun almost never set. I think that had some effect on people as well.
I know that affected some people quite a bit. I know I talked to several competitors who just really had a hard time getting any sleep at all. And I actually sat up with Arian one night just chatting, and he looked at me and said, hey, Mike, it's 1:30 in the morning. And, I had no idea. I'm used to, at least subconsciously using the sun as some sort of approximation of what time of day it is. But, it kind of threw several of us off our rhythm a bit.
Yeah, the first night that we got there, Beck and I fell asleep with the curtains open. I think I actually got sunburned. It's the first time I probably got sunburned at around 10:30 at night or 11 at night or whatever it was. So I'm not complaining though.
No, and to be honest, and we've said this already, but just to reiterate that the location and everything, I was really pleased with all of it. I thought the accommodations were nice, the venue was nice, it was a really good experience. And then something that I talked with you about a bit, Paulie, just the idea of being immersed in powerlifting for, like, I was there for a week, so I get up in the morning, I do a few chores around my room, but then I go to a powerlifting meet and I'm there hanging out with lifters, watching lifting, and at the end of the day, you go eat dinner with powerlifters and you hang out and talk about lifting weights and stuff like that. And then the next day, you kind of do the same thing. It was actually really fun. I wouldn't do this if I didn't enjoy it. And then to be fully immersed in it for a week or so was a lot of fun. It was really nice.
Yeah, we should think about doing some kind of immersive RTS training camp for a few days. Just immerse everybody in powerlifting.
Heck yeah.
Or another seminar,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like down in Florida again.
Or somewhere, but just make it fully immersive. Because I agree with you, man. It was cool. So obvious, as coaches, we all had to wear our uniforms. So we were clearly identified as United States coaches, and everybody there more or less wore their uniforms. And
Yeah.
it was really just the overall global powerlifting community was really, really nice to be a part of. And it was just truly personified. So we're kind of part of this virtual powerlifting community on Facebook and so on and so forth, but to be there physically and to nod at your fellow powerlifters and recognize people that you haven't seen in a while, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's highly recommended.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Paulie.
No, go on.
I was just going to say that's one thing that that I love about powerlifting is it doesn't matter where you come from, what language you speak, anything else. Everybody's seems like they're happy to see each other and like to talk if you can communicate. And there's no very, very little. I'm not aware of any trash talking and meanness or anything like that. It's just a great brotherhood.
Yeah. So to kind of speak to that a little bit, there's the World Championship next year, the Classic World Championship next year is going to be in Killeen, Texas. So I know at least for those of us in the U.S. that'll be a lot easier to get to. So you should take some time and go down there and hang out, take a bunch of pictures, watch some really, really high quality lifting, and just kind of immerse in powerlifting for a couple days, whatever you've got time to do. I can't recommend it enough. And if you like kind of a different sort of immersive experience, maybe somewhere else, Adam mentioned Florida. Paulie, I know that you're located in New York. Hit us up. You can contact us on the Facebook page, or you can send me an email or whatever. If you're interested in something like that, let us know, and we can see about putting something together. So I think we're about out of time, fellas. We're going to have to, some of us are going to have to go and get back to doing what we do. But thanks, guys, for taking the time to hang out and talk about your experience in Finland. Thanks, Mark. Congratulations again on your second in a row World Championship and your additional world records. Paulie, thanks for hanging out, and thanks for taking the trip all the way over there to help some of our lifters. I know I'm speaking on behalf of everybody when I say thanks for the effort that you put in to come and coach. So everybody else, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.